I've got a couple of lines with increase in it. Fuel. Like I said, I've been running pretty hard. I've put twice the amount of hours I normally do a year on the loader, and of course, we all know the cost, so that's one of them. You'll see on the solid waste disposal fee, that's quite a jump. Since Leslie took over for Stafford, the Stafford County Trash Service, they used to take theirs to Great Bend, paid. I mean, we do get this money back, but it is returned right back to that line. And, so now that Leslie's doing that, we're also getting Stafford's trash going to Reno County. In the last 4 months, we've used $11,000 out of that budget.
Mm-hmm.
And that's due to, because they used to go to Great Bend, now Lesley hasn't. Everything else is pretty much the same with the cost of living increase, but that's the reason for the increase on the other two line items. And also on this line, on the solid waste disposal fee, I've increased a little on, that's where my recycling funds come out of. And that is a area we're going to have to discuss after we've had a talk before on the performance of sunflowers. And you guys have talked to him, I talked to him on the way in here that morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it has done nothing but gotten worse. In the last 2 weeks, I'll say week before last, for example, I called him because he never showed up. And I told him, he never showed up till Friday. I called him on Tuesday, or Wednesday, excuse me, because at one time he told me, well, we're back to Tuesday school. They're every Tuesday. I called him Wednesday and no show, and I told him, hey, I'm down to 0 boxes, and I've got full ones sitting there. He never showed up till Friday, yet he brought me 5 soaking wet boxes with no bottoms in them. And and they have never shown up early enough that I can run for since we've had to talk to them, which is a liability. I called him that Friday after he showed up. I called him. I said, hey, he brought me 5 soggy boxes with no bottoms. I said, if your employee was very observant, he had seen I had 0 boxes. He left 5, but yet I've got 7 sitting there full. And I had 20 some full ones sitting there. Now I'm at almost 30, I think, sitting there. Because the following week, he brought me 3 boxes. Took 3 and left 3 old ratty boxes. I called him. I said, hey, this ain't gonna work. I said, we're contracted on the contract that says, up to at least 8 boxes. And we have, recycling has increased. It steadily has. Even though the contract says 8, they're not even making 8. They brought me 8 boxes in 2 weeks. So I'm using up my reserve boxes. And he said, after the last time I talked to him, he says, well, I'm giving you a heads up. He said, we are going to increase our rates due to fuel and the cost of labor. And he says, you guys are getting this for little or nothing. And they feel they're taking it in shorts, and that's why, I'm sure that's why their service is support. I told them, I said, hey, Sean, I said, when they first come to us, I told them what it cost us, and they asked us if they could take over and for that amount, and I said, sure. They're looking at going up to $300 a week, not a month, a week, $1,200 a month. I said, how can you raise your rates that high on me when your service is support?
Yeah.
He says, well, we're going to charge you what we charge on her. I had called Stutzman's over at Hutch where I take it, or where we used to take it. And, they will charge if your stuff has to go through a sorter. $65 a ton. That's more than it costs the landfill. But our stuff's always sorted. 3 loads or 4 I've taken in the last couple of years there, they never charge us a dime, you know, because of course it's already sorted. They don't have to go through the store. So I'm looking at it, and I want to run that by you guys, going back to Reno County. I talked to Philip. They said he'll do what he can to, you know, try to get a load in there once a month, because I can fill it, try to about once a month.
What did Stutzman's, if it doesn't have to go through a sorter, what do they charge? Zero. And
So all we
all
got
the
is
basic we
basic.
got is going there.
Yeah, Philip said that his rate would go up, cost of fuel by, he said somewhere, he said ballpark around $200.
Well, if we
Which
figure
was
$5 a loaded mile there and back for fill,
Yeah,
that should be plenty.
yeah,
I mean, that's, what is that?
40, 90,
500 bucks?
90 miles round trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, $500 a month.
Well, he said he would.
If that, I mean, and that's $5 a loaded mile both ways.
Yeah,
It probably should only
And
be
he
$5
said
a
he'd do
loaded
it
mile
for
one
what?
way.
He said he'd be somewhere around 200,
okay.
so, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They hook on the trailer and go,
yeah, they hook on that enclosed trailer,
yeah.
Is it a
This is
semi
a-
reefer trailer?
yeah. Yeah, it's an old reefer trailer. I mean,
Well, I really like
it was
some-
nice that they would come get it, you know?
I really like Sunflower and I like what they do, but
Yeah,
At
they're
some
being
point.
that way.
At
And
some
we
point.
talked,
He told me, he said, hey, I said, why do you keep your empty cardboard boxes? I said, if you can call them boxes. I mean, there's one of them wet ones left, and it was moldy and nasty. I just throwed it down. You know, and I had to, I kept them boxes hid in the trailer. And one day when I was gone, where Jerry says, you know, my reserve boxes. And when they come, they're brand, they look like they've only been used once. They're neatly stacked, banded on a pallet. Never had a problem. I mean, they're trouble-free. One day when I was gone, Jerry had told was there when a guy showed up, and he said, hey, you didn't leave very many boxes. Oh, well, you got something in that trailer over there. So they go snooping around, apparently. They always kind of kept my head, because they see you. And now I've got them in the building, because I had to empty that out, because I got to take all that they're behind on and get them in the trailer.
yep.
So
what, are those made out of cardboard or
they're cardboard, yeah.
heavy duty cardboard?
Yeah, some of them are up to ½ inch thick.
Oh, geez.
So will you get your boxes back when you take them to Reno, or we
Well, you know what?
start buying boxes?
No, we don't buy them. I mean, when I've got, that trailer will hold about 40 boxes, full boxes. When I go there and drop it off, they send back equal number of pallets and boxes. They'll send me
Okay.
back 40 boxes, 40 pallets.
Okay.
It's like an exchange, basically.
Yeah, and they won't like what they get here. I mean, you know, and I asked Sean, I said, well, tell me something. I said, how am I supposed to put glass in a box with no bottom? Well, you got to line it with cardboard. I said, but still, I said, when you get the weight, and that's why I disappear, you know, lose all of my reserve boxes, because I mean, there's, not only are they not bringing me enough, there's certain items, glass and cans and stuff that you can't put in a box with no bottom, even if you line the bottom with cardboard. Because once it starts, the weight of it starts pushing it out, then it flows out.
Into your
And I'll
pallet.
have to, when we do load these up and get them to Hush, I'll have to call and give them a heads up and apologize to them for the condition of the boxes. Because when you go to unload them too, the bottom's gonna fall out, it's all gonna hit the floor. It's just a joke.
Hmm.
You know, well, and the only problem with dropping them is Stafford. You know, because they do Stafford also. And I've talked to Marvin Nicely, Nicely picks it up now. I've had a hard time getting a hold of him, I finally got a hold of him. When he gets time, he's gonna come up and we're gonna sit down, and if he can get here early enough, I'll bring him in and we'll get something figured out for Stafford. He puts containers out in Maxville for recycling, he keeps them empty. And I talked to him, I asked him, if he had an idea of cost, or if we could add that to a little to the city bill, but I told him we gotta get something going for Stafford. contingency plan if I have to get rid of sunflower and go, then, we need something for Stafford.
Mhm.
Those trailers I have, I only got one, the one on Hudson, they're not user friendly for majority of people that recycle or older. They're not user friendly at all. You gotta
Yeah.
get up on them, you gotta raise the
Lift
door
up
up,
the lid.
prop the lid, if the wind catches it, blows it up and brings the steel rod down on your head.
Yeah.
I've seen people standing there with the lid on their head and they're shoving stuff in, But, as busy as that recycle building stays, I just don't really see no point in chasing it either. There's people from Stafford come over and use the recycle, which is great, that's fine. But they, Bias Meshberger, I said, you come over here? And they said, well, that one at Stafford's hardly open, if it is open, because everything's full already, so. And I've talked to Dina and their services, it's just what they're doing, they're coming up here, only left me 3 boxes, they got little bitty trucks. They can't haul enough to hit 2 places at one time, which they're trying, I can see they're trying to save the mileage, hit two places at once with one trip, but it's just not, it's inefficient.
What are we paying them now?
$175 a month.
$175 a month, and they're wanting to go to $1,200.
Yeah.
I don't see that we have much choice,
Just a lot of fuel adjustment.
just based on dollars, let alone service.
And then didn't John, who's the director of that, didn't he retire?
He retired.
Yeah. He's a commissioner now.
Yeah.
I think he's still serving at some capacity for Sunflower, a consultant or something.
Yeah, I think we need to just
Yeah, do some homework and,
do the other deal. So do we need to give them a notice, or we got a year-by-year contract with them, or can we end that at any
It
time?
can be ended anytime. I should have brought a copy of that, but I didn't bring it. But yes, it can be terminated at any time. So I'd
I
say,
would do some homework first before we, but if they've got a little truck, obviously that's, they can only pick up 3 boxes.
he's always telling me his big trucks broke down, but I've never seen it. So I don't know if it still exists. I told him, I said, hey, Sean, I said, service when George was up there in Troy, he said, those days are all gone.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
So, it sounds like Darren's already done most of his homework.
Aside from being, so busy at the landfill, that I just do the minimum there in the recycle to make sure everything's emptied and stacked for the day. I'm behind. Yet I can't go get a trailer, Hudson trailer, or my yard bins out there because I got to ration my boxes.
Yeah.
It makes it tough, to balance it out.
What do you think?
I don't see what other homework I guess we can do. What do you think of that?
I was just making certain that we,
Have covered the bases?
Have covered the
Yeah,
bases.
Before we, yeah, I understand to not want to make a knee-jerk reaction, but it seems like, we made it very clear to John when he was here with the.
And you talked
the
to
new
John that
person.
day, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you talked to John, we made it very clear that our service was not up to par. That's been several months ago.
And it's not just like the service is a little off.
no, it's
I mean,
way
it's
off.
horrendous. We can't keep going the way we're going.
You're looking $40-some a trip, but, they got to pay an employee and higher cost of fuel and stuff. But they took it on as, for what it was costing me. And, if I can still get it done problem-free for $200, $225 a month.
But not for 1,200.
No.
Yeah,
We've got a roadworthy semi, don't we?
yeah.
A road and bridge.
Got 2 or 3.
Two.
And that reefer trailer, is it gonna need some upkeep, repair?
So far, it's been, I've had to fix one spot on the floor.
Yeah, I just didn't know if 6 months down the road, we'd be buying a new reefer trailer, or buying a different reefer trailer, cause that one's giving up on us, making long trips, but I'm not familiar with the reefer, so,
You can buy those reapers pretty darn cheap.
yeah. I'm okay with making a change.
I'd say, call them and say, we don't need their services anymore.
Yep.
Well, it's about the end of the month, I'll wait till the end of the month, because we've already paid for it.
Yeah,
Do you want to make a motion on that, so we have a record?
yeah, I make a motion that we suspend our services with Sunflower Diversified as far as recycling goes, and look at our options to go to Stutzman's and Hutchison.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
It's really unfortunate because I really do like what Sunflower does,
Yeah.
but
Well, I think, they have good intentions, but I think they get learned, they've got several places they go. I think they're just biting off more of an apple than they can chew at one time.
Yeah.
They're going through, I'll jump in here, I'm on the Sunflower Board,
Right.
so, and we just had a meeting last night. So they are going through a lot of transition and reorganizing. So I don't know if it's something you might want to go back and
yeah,
because they've got a new person coming in, and so they're kind of in transition. I don't know if you want to go back and visit with them, but I don't know what all you guys have talked about.
yeah. We talked, John and the new
Shelby?
I forget her name, yeah. They came in several months ago and talked to us, and we had been having trouble prior to that. He caught John, he happened to be here, he caught John on the way in, and they visited, and then John and Shelby came in and we visited, and we told them this is not working. The service is just, we can't do it. At that time, it wasn't so much the box issue as it was them having inconsistent days and times when they were coming.
Mhm.
And then they'd have to run our forklift, which is liability on county property to run our equipment. But now it's the same inconsistent time and days, like days off, several days off. And then now we're having
They've had
box.
staffing issues
Yeah,
also.
yeah, now we're having box issues where we're not getting boxes. So,
And when
yeah, I mean, I'm all for Sunflower. I
and
like
when they miss-
Sunflower.
When they miss us, they're missing Stafford too, so.
And I wouldn't mind taking a look at it down the road, but at this point, I don't see that we have much choice because we've got a reefer full of boxes and stuff.
We got full boxes, and what'd you say, last week they picked up 3 or 8?
3.
And then the boxes that they leave are soaking wet, and then they don't have a bottom in them.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And Darren used to keep a lot of boxes in our trailer, extra boxes, in case we got busy. And then they quit dropping off boxes, and they said we got plenty of boxes over there. That was our boxes for reserve. But it sounds like the problem is whoever you have in charge of the recycling. Because when Darren talked to him, he said, well, what do you say? The way it used to be is gone.
Yeah.
This is the way it is now.
Is
And
that
they wanted to
what-
go from
Did you talk to Sean or?
Sean.
And they wanted to go from 175 a month to basically 300 a week.
Yeah, they're having to raise their rates because they're losing money coming, yeah. it's a
But if they were
mess.
doing good service, they could raise their weight. But when they're doing terrible service and wanting to raise,
Yeah.
so.
Is Stutzman's gonna make us sign a contract, or is that just kind of a in and out type of deal?
It's just a-
Drive in.
Yeah.
Okay.
On your budget here, you've got a few increases, a little increase on salary, a little increase on fuel.
Well, the salary covers, my salary, covers days that I'm gone, on average. I don't take a full
Yeah.
18 days or whatever it is, and also that's Cindy's, part of Cindy's salary, so.
Okay. And then you got an increase on solid waste. You don't have any other equipment and transfers.
So your figures are at the bottom are off from what
Yeah, I
your
don't know if
22
you're,
budget to your 23 budget.
yeah,
Proposed is,
if you had that,
Yeah, see, but in 21, he didn't
didn't do any, hasn't done any yet.
So, I mean, if you'd want to budget in some for capital outlay. You know, we'd have to put that in, that'd be in addition to this total. If we'd want some sort of,
Yeah. How much do you have in your machinery fund now?
we used almost all of it, didn't we?
No, that loader.
No,
Oh, no?
Okay.
are you looking on that list?
Yeah.
I think there's, no, we didn't use it all. 'Cause I know I had enough to buy a brand new machine, but I didn't want to go there route.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Because that's gonna be a pretty major decrease in your budget from last year to this year, which we appreciate
It'd be
that, we just don't want you getting,
$78,000.
don't want you getting behind.
Or behind, you know, as far as, because at some point, we'll probably be looking at that deal out of capital outlay. Not necessarily budgeting in his budget, correct, for
For the
expansion?
Stutzman, yeah.
Well,
Oh, no.
for the
Yeah.
Yeah. Paying
landfill
for that out of the
expansion.
general fund, yeah.
Yeah,
And that 50, the other equipment, that was basically the loader that we bought last year, right? Is that last year we bought that loader?
Yep.
That we had budgeted in for last year?
Mhm.
Okay. Are those foam filled tires working all right?
Yeah. Ride's a little rough, but it's all right. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
yeah, it's better now than flat tires all the
But
time.
it does have ride control and air ride seat, which is amazing.
Right.
Is that better on your back?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Darren, you're good with that figure of 140?
Yeah.
We can see how we come out with the total budget and if we need to
Yes.
put a little more
Melissa
in
will
there.
look at that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll at least look at that, Darren, and see as far as your capital outlay,
Okay.
based on our final numbers.
Okay.
I'll make a note.
But I would like us to get together with you and drive down there and look at Sandy
Yeah.
at sometime. I don't know what time works for you.
Just any day before, you know, when we got time to get in and out of there before, you know, get back by 11.
Because if we do move it out there to Sandy Land, I'd like Darren to go down there and look at that round top
Mhm.
before Phil tears it down. Because I mean, I think with a little tender loving care, that round top could be a pretty good deal.
Is it, what structure, wood framed or metal?
It's an old wood. No, well, I
I
don't
thought it
know.
was all steel.
It might be all steel. The tin around the bottom's ratty, but the whole deal's concreted and it's got two huge steel roll-up, fairly new doors.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think a guy could make it into a pretty decent place.
Well, you know, even when you leave to another site, I mean, there's still commitment there that's gonna have to be, you know, mowed and
Yeah,
low settling spots filled in and reseeded.
Yeah.
I haven't had everybody see deep. Phil brought me a bunch of dirt from where he was cleaning out a ditch and I stockpiled it separate. It's just plumb full of grass and weeds and shoot, I filled several of those spots a couple months ago and I filled them in and I used that, 'cause it's full of grass seed stuff. Now I've got marijuana patches. I was like, oh my gosh, it's bright new green growth, but it's just, it's all sprouting up marijuana everywhere.
I mean, I think our best bet would be if we could go out there, but I mean, we've tried buying ground around the landfill. I just don't think it's doable,
it doesn't seem like it is.
so. All right. Well, thank you, Darren.
Well, a hole anywhere is better than a hole.
Oh, yeah. And I think if we do the regulations, I think we might as well permit for bigger than what we're gonna need.
Mhm.
And then we can just, you know,
Start with one.
start with one pit and then let the rest of it be farmed. Because once you get it permitted and everything done, it's done and it'll probably be cheaper now than it will in 20 years.
Yeah. Because permit manager, you know, she said that, you know, it costs us as much to permit 10 acres as it does 40,
Yeah.
you know.
Sounds like a deal.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Darren.
Darren.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
see, I think Lisa and, are they before me?
Well, if you don't mind.
No, it's
It'll
fine.
We have
take
a
a-
few
it'll just
minutes.
Okay, nothing but time. I'm
Okay.
fine.
It'll just take 2 minutes.
That's fine.
So go into an executive session for non-elected, or no.
Yeah.
For elected personnel. No,
Non-elected
non-elected.
personnel.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we go into executive session for 5 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session for 5 minutes for non-elected personnel. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
I'll make a motion, we increase Karen Petty from range 8, step 1 to range 8, step 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I was trying to find that on my spreadsheet of pay scale, but
Well,
yeah, I mean, you guys can, it'll probably be range 5, step
I'll
4.
come in and talk to you around 11 o'clock.
Okay,
Somebody needs some help,
okay.
and you too.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate
you.
it.
All right, miss. Thank you for your patience.
sure.
We're only running 3 minutes.
No, you're. Me, I just came early. I don't think I was even down until 9 o'clock, so I'm good. Okay, so I thought it might be a good idea to revisit the last lease purchase that we had with 2017 vehicle. Reason why is because I was having a hard time wrapping my hand around the numbers initially, why things were the way they were, but on the very back page, what I noticed is that we put a down payment down of $94,742, and then we also had a trade-in of our medic unit, and they gave us $15,000 for a 2005, it was our old medic too, is what brought that to the 206,817. Our interest rate was 2.79. So when we had that big down payment, that's why I was wondering where the $30,000 came from. You know, why we're always doing $30,000 for 4 years? Well, because we put a significant down payment down. And our interest rate was low, 2.79. So
Now you're gonna give us the
now,
good news.
I'm gonna give you the good
I
news.
know where this is going.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to kind of comparison because I was like, something's not, to me, it didn't make sense initially. Okay, so the new medic units, Tim from ARV has shared with me that everything has gone up about 25% across the board, and the build is actually about a year out. It's the same medic unit designed from Medic 2, just an increase in all the costs and trying to get all the parts and get it built is part of the issue. What I was noticing, the trade-in, what I really want to discuss with you guys is the trade-in with Medic 4, okay? As is, it's got 92,000 miles on it. It's a 2003, and they will give us $5,000 for that Medic unit, which I felt was kind of low. I called Melissa Ely, our auditor, and she actually looked it up, and Blue Book value for that is $4,200 to $5,100 is the actual Blue Book value for that Medic unit as is right now.
What year is it?
That's a 2003 Ford F-350, and it's got 92,000 miles on it, and that's in good condition, she said. So if they're willing.
Is that 7.3 in it?
I'm not
Is
sure.
it, it's a diesel, isn't
But,
it?
I mean, yep, it's a diesel.
Yeah, it's a
I was gonna
diesel.
say, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was asking her, now it's up to you guys if you want to trade it or if you want to keep it, is what we're pretty much going to decide on that today. They will give us guaranteed $5,000 as is. We won't trade it in for another year because they still have to run it. We still have to run the Medic unit until the new one's built. So we're going to increase mileage on it. So it'll probably have 100,000 miles on it or just slightly over by the time we trade it in a year, by the time it's built. What I noticed is the interest rate with the trade-in jumped up. And without the trade-in, you know, they're 4.25, 4.35, and 4.55. It jumped to 4.72, 4.75, and 4.79 if we trade it. I don't know if that's recouping costs for them or.
It seems ridiculous to me that their interest rate is so high because
Mhm.
like us three could go out and buy a pickup right now at 4 or less and we're a risk in the bank's eyes compared to a county. You know you're gonna get paid.
Right.
So is this where they're financing this through, this American Response Vehicles, are they taking on that loan themselves or are they farming it out to a secondary
It looked like Tim
Purchaser?
emailed yesterday.
or a secondary,
It looks like it's through their company, but it is through. He said A or B has nothing to do with rates. That's all from REV Financial.
okay, that's what this
That's
is,
these,
right?
yeah, REV Financial.
REV Financial.
Yes,
And American Response Vehicles are the people.
the builders, yeah. Now, Melissa, when I was talking to her, she said that we have an excess of cash of $87,000 that we could use towards a down payment on the medic unit, but she would prefer us to do a $30,000 or a $60,000 down payment with a lease of, if we do the $30,000, 7 years, and if we do a $60,000, a 5 or 7 year lease, is what she was suggesting. She was.
But if we put 30,000 down, she wants to do a 7-year
Seven,
deal.
yeah, that's what she suggested. I loved having Melissa involved in this process, the auditor, because she read numbers, she caught mistakes they had done. She was, yes, very valuable to this. But that is what she is suggesting with the excess that we do have. She didn't want
What's
to
the
put
total
everything
amount?
down.
200.
308,
Well, it depends on if you trade in or not trade in.
308, 721.
Yeah, 308, 721, 74.
Didn't the last one we went through the Bank of Sterling?
Yeah, I think we should shop their rate.
The last one, we went through these people.
Through
Yeah.
these?
Because it's the
one
same
before
proposal.
is the
Yeah.
one we went through Sterling?
And see, I thought, we were told that you couldn't go through a bank because we're a county entity.
Can't
You
borrow
can't
money.
borrow money from a bank, is
Well,
what
you
Melissa
have to-
told us.
It's their leasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what
Or it
Melissa
wasn't,
was
yeah.
saying, is we couldn't go through a bank. Because I was all for it, find out the banks and the interest rates, and she said we couldn't do that.
But if the bank has a leasing company.
Yeah, you can do a lease thing, you just can't do a loan. You
Mhm.
can't outright borrow money. That's a government entity.
Mhm.
Oh, see, that's what she was telling me, so I just assumed we couldn't do
Yeah,
that.
no, if they have a leasing division,
Mhm.
then you,
Does St. John National have a leasing deal?
I don't think,
They wouldn't be competitive with this
On the
rate.
rate, yeah.
You'd have to go to like Credit Union or Bank of America or something like that.
So this option right here is what we'd be looking at, no trade-in, and it would basically be 30,000 down, and then our payments, instead of being 30 a year, would be 46
Yeah, 46, 621,
on a
02.
7-year.
Yes.
What's the user, well, I guess that's a dumb question because we have a 03 now.
And Melissa said that.
I was thinking usable life versus your amortization, when you'd have it paid off and then what you'd have at the
Yeah.
end of it.
Mhm.
Because we have we paid one off last year.
Yeah, the new one, the 17 is paid off.
And how many more years do you think we have on that? Like, is it still in great condition,
Oh, yeah.
miles wise?
We haven't
You think
hardly
we have
any
another 10
problems.
years
Oh,
with
yeah.
that ambulance?
Oh, yeah.
Because we've been about every 5 years, we get a new.
We get a new one every 5 years.
And
We
where we
try.
got 4 ambulances in the county, then our oldest one turns out to be 20 years.
And right now, we've got a 17, a 10, that's 3 we'll be getting ready to get rid of. And then the 1996 Brenda doesn't want to get rid of with Medic 3. So we'll have to do something with her when the time comes. But
So that seems awful cheap for an ambulance with 100,000 miles. I mean, couldn't you pull that?
we
Rent
could even,
box
I mean,
off
we
and
could
put a
list it
flat
on
on?
Purple
Well, that's what
Wave
I'm
when
saying,
it's
the
all said and
7.3 with
done.
90,000 miles is worth a few $1,000s.
You know, I mean, I'm
That's the way
thinking
it
you could
is.
take the box off and throw it away, put a flat
Or-
on.
I've seen
Or
people
how
use
many
an ambulance
farmers
for a food
around,
truck.
yeah, how many farmers around would just buy
I saw
that
the food
for
truck in
$4
Great
grand?
Dillon.
well, and then there's some plumbers.
Yeah.
If it has a 7.3, I
Yeah.
don't know, they
Further-
might have that 6.4 or whatever that everyone hates and then it
The
would be.
5,000 seems awful damn cheap.
That's what I thought too. Melissa looked it up and that's what she said, but, I mean, I'd be willing to just keep it and put it on Purple Wave when we're all said and done.
Yeah, I mean,
Sell it out.
I wouldn't be afraid to just put it on Purple Wave and
Yeah,
go with it, but.
Okay.
Bryce likes the idea of camo and make a portable deer blind out of it.
Whatever they do with it, as long as their decals are on it, they, it's not our problem.
So if we go, I'm gonna give you a little comparison here. Pay 46K.
So are there that much increases? I mean, I'm sure there's a big difference between this one, the box, you know, in the back, I don't know what you'd call that,
Mhm.
compared to like the 2003 that we're getting.
Oh, you mean the dimensions? I think
Well, I
it's,
mean, as far as cabinetry, new
Mhm.
stuff,
yeah.
I mean, is it a lot nicer, a lot
It's
better?
a lot more spacious. They can walk around. There's a lot of room in Medic 2, and that's what caught their attention. There's a lot of room in that box. When this one that they're in right now, you just barely, I mean, I was in it last 2 days, and so whenever I walk around and
The
I
first
bang
proposal was
my knees on
with the
stuff,
trade-in,
and it doesn't
right?
have a lot of room to
Yeah,
maneuver
trade-in.
around in there.
So no train.
So, and yeah, cabinetry, there's a lot more places to keep things,
Yeah,
so.
Alright, so if we do 30,000 down, the no trade-in, are we kinda all on board for the no trade-in? Might as well just list it for $5,000. Okay, so the no trade-in situation, if we put 30,000 down and do the 7-year AM, we pay 46,000 in interest. If we put 60,000 down and do the 7-year AM, we pay 41,000 in interest. So it's a $5,000 difference in interest expense between the two
over the 7 years.
over the 7 years. So what is that, 5,000 divided by 7? You pay $714 a year extra in interest. I would think short-term wise, your cash in hand would be better, correct?
For the 60,000
No,
now?
if you're only gonna pay 5,000 extra in interest, your cash in hand is worth more, right? I mean, that's how I would do it as a business, but I don't know about a county entity, I'm just not,
Yeah.
you know, whether the cash in hand is that important to us.
Well, she's got to watch her overall where she comes out at, so yeah, she's gotta be careful about
Well, if you
which
could,
option she
yeah, I mean,
chooses.
if you could lessen your, that's why Melissa, I'm sure, picked these two, because that's pretty close.
Yeah.
And right now, your budget, or your capital outlay is about 80-some thousand.
She's got an excess
excess
of
in
cash.
cash of
She had
87.
built in a transfer that didn't happen, so she ended up with having that carryover in cash that Melissa is drawn.
And that is how much?
That 80 some,
87,000?
yeah.
So it'd take us down to 57,000 if we did 30,000 down.
And you don't have anything in your capital outlay?
I don't think so.
Not much, no.
In my reserve, I have some, but, and there was 15, but then we put the money back in from the Lucas device at the end of the year, because it did
Right.
come in, we just don't have it applied back in there yet, because they can't transfer it.
Which
till the end of
that,
the year.
right, it goes to cash, you
Am I
can't put
thinking
it back
about that
and
right,
go
Clay?
over your budget.
But then when
I
you,
mean,
when it
that's the
comes
only
back
thing
into
that
cash,
matters
you
to
have
us
a
is
budget
interest
for that,
expense
even
in
though
this-
you have that cash,
in
you
this
spend that
scenario,
money,
right?
then it shows you overspent your budget.
Exactly,
Because we
that's
gotta
why
pay
it goes
off,
back
and
to
we have a
cash, and she can't
$5,000
credit
hit.
it back to her budget, so
Yeah,
she does
but
not
that'll
go
just go
over
to
her
her
budget.
cash.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
The $5,000 vehicle, like when we sell it on Purple Wave or whatever, that'll just go to her cash, right?
Okay.
I guess that's the, Todd, that's the only way that I can compare them is interest expense. I guess it doesn't make much sense to me for $700 a year to put double the amount down.
Yeah,
And
I'm
deplete her
running
down.
short on cash.
Deplete her down.
And Melissa
I agree.
actually said the same thing.
So
Roughly
30,000 down for
doing that.
7
No.
years.
But she doesn't have anything in
30,
capital outlay.
30 down.
I'm looking
on a
at
Yeah,
7
30.
30,000 down on a 7-year
Yeah.
AM. Your interest rate is the highest of the 357, which is BS, because we're gonna pay regardless
Your
whether
fund
it's
balance here.
3 or 7, but
Mhm.
I guess it's only 0.3% higher.
Let's see.
That does seem high. I wonder what, I wonder what these ambulance, American Response,
She's got just under 18,000 in her reserve fund.
I wonder what American Response charges as a buy rate. You know, like sometimes dealers, when you buy a pickup, they'll say, well, Bank of America is gonna be who's gonna finance your pickup, but then the dealer will charge a buy rate on top of, they'll say, well, your interest rate's gonna be 5%.
Yeah.
Well, the dealer's charging 0.75%. Bank of America is actually only 4.25,
Yeah.
and you never know the difference. I wonder if this ambulance company
I would doubt
does,
it.
charges a
Yeah.
charges a buy rate too.
Does Collins make ambulances?
Collins bus, no, yeah.
So
it
how
shut
much
down.
total are we end up gonna pay on the interest?
If we go 30,000 down at a 7-year AM, we pay 46,000 in interest.
On interest?
I know what you're about to say.
What's that?
How do we pay cash for the ambulance?
Well, I was wondering, what would be nice is if we could buy that ambulance out of our general fund and then have this department pay instead of paying payments to them, they pay it back into the general fund. And the general fund would be 47,000 a head.
Or capital outlay. You're
Yeah.
talking capital outlay.
Yeah.
though. The problem is it depletes our capital outlay 30%
Yeah,
just for an ambulance.
yeah,
So we got a shade over $1 million in there.
yeah.
You can't loan another department.
Clayton's,
I like they were
I know.
do that.
I know what you're
Nice
saying.
and
That is,
fair.
I mean,
Yeah.
a government entity shouldn't.
It would be.
It seems
it
weird
would
for a
be
government
nice,
entity
yes.
to be paying interest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, 47,000 a lot, when we're probably not making that, we're probably making 0.5%.
Yeah,
For CDs, but,
46,000 divided by 7-year AM, we're paying 6,500 a year in interest.
yeah.
Whereas on our last ambulance, it was half that.
So I'm guessing by Clayton's facial expression, we're not getting the money on the deal.
No, I was not ready to say that.
But you see what I'm saying?
It makes sense,
It
yes,
makes, yes,
but
it makes sense, but
we're not allowed.
you get a lot of frowns.
Yeah.
So if we do this, this won't come about until next year.
Well, I think what we determined is that we go ahead and put the money down, the down payment this year, and we won't make an ambulance payment until we take delivery of it next year when it's completed.
Okay.
So we're looking at if we do the 30 down 7-year AM, it's a $46,000 payment versus,
30,000.
no, versus 41,000.
Have you put your budget in yet?
Because the other one was 2.7.
I got it right here. It was dependent upon what we decided. I prepared numerous budgets, depending upon what you guys decided today.
Yeah.
What the
Plugged it
amount
in.
was,
Well, what I was wondering is if we can,
as opposed to.
if your budget is pretty much the same, not a huge
What is it?
increase,
Mhm.
if we could budget a little bit more to where we put the 30,000 down payment, and then if we increased a little bit, then on your first payment, you could basically put another 30 to where we'd have 60 down, and her cash would stay the same.
We could talk to Melissa about that.
6 years.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, just to try to get that interest rate down a little bit. Did you hear what I was saying?
Yes.
To where if we put a little bit in her budget now for this year, as long as she doesn't have a lot more increase, then put 30,000 down and then put another 30 into her budget, then she'd be able to,
A year ahead.
we'd be able to do a 60,000 down.
The last, oh, yeah, you're saying, okay.
Because where they're not gonna get it for a year, I mean, we got a year to work with the budget to get a little more down payment.
Mhm.
But I don't know
They're still gonna get the majority of their interest regardless, because
Yeah, 30,000.
amortization, they're gonna take, 3/4 of the interest up front.
Yeah,
The last year of your loan, you're not gonna pay hardly any.
yeah,
Well, the last year, I got the schedule right here. The last year of your loan in 2029, we're only gonna pay, your interest payment goes down to like $70 a month.
yeah. But the bigger down payment you put down, it knocks it
Yeah,
off
you
the front end.
Yeah, it'll knock it off in front.
So just in comparison of the 17 to the 23, we've got over $100,000 increase.
Did I need
Now,
to sign
is
that?
that
They signed
Yes.
it.
because of the
Yes.
equipment that's inside?
Because
We don't have, that's just the shell of the ambulance,
That's just
there's
the
no
shell.
equipment loaded, nope. So it's the exact same setup too, as the medic unit that we mirrored it off of 2017 that we bought. So he decided there's just a 25% increase across the board is what is causing that increase in cost like that. Because I thought, what? I was, yeah, when I first got it.
So we pulled everything out of the old and put it in the new.
Yep, and we already have a Zoll, we have a power cot, we have everything it's gonna need, all we gotta
But a lot
do
of that
is put
stuff is just a
supplies.
year or two old.
Oh, yeah,
So I mean,
they got
we're
brand
putting-
new stuff.
We're
yeah.
taking new stuff out of our old ambulance, putting in new
Yep.
ambulance.
It'll be equipped, no problem. Do we need, so the 7 years at 30,000 that we're agreeing?
Yeah.
Does one of you guys want to sign?
Are these a locked-in deal, or can we, if we want to put some money, more money down, can we,
Yeah, is there a prepayment penalty, I guess?
yeah, prepayment penalty?
I'm actually not sure on that. I can
You don't
actually,
want-
when I call him and ask him, I can call him, I'll have to call him after this meeting anyway, let him know,
Because I mean,
ask him.
Because that would essentially be a prepayment,
yeah,
like a one-time larger principal payment.
So when we take possession of the ambulance, is that what you're saying? That
Yeah,
We'll
well,
put
if-
more money down?
depending on your budget, if we can add a little bit in there to where we can
Next
make
year.
that,
Mhm.
you know, when you take possession of it, you'd basically make another $30,000 payment on top of your normal one. So it would be the same as putting 60 down.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cause
it'd be
sure-
to where we wouldn't have to put it down right now, but if there's room in the overall numbers, we could build a little bit extra in there to where next year you essentially make a double payment or a payment and a half.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Kind of depends, that sounds like what we did with that, the $90,000 payment, the first one that we put down. We put a big chunk down when we took possession of it, it looked like a $90,000 payment, 96 or something.
Because I mean, that's the best time is right off the bat to get your interest knocked down. But, and I'm assuming that 30,000 that we put down, that basically just holds our slot. We're not signing this stuff and paying interest until we take possession of the ambulance.
Yeah.
Right.
And if they say year out, we'll be lucky if we get it in a year and it's not farther.
That's, well, you know, they're saying a year from now, and the crew's like, oh gosh, you know, but,
And so we'll make the two newest ambulances will be here in St. John, since you're using the most here?
well, this one will go to Stafford,
Okay,
because they're just about evenly matched with us for call volume, believe it or not.
okay.
So, and the 2010 will stay here, the medic one, and so we'll have the 17 and the one 2010 here, and then this one will go to Stafford.
And you've been able to do quite a few transfers with the extra people you have?
Yeah, some.
Or is that something we need to talk about in executive session?
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's a big moneymaker. I mean, every transfer,
Oh, yeah.
that puts more money into your budget.
I've gone
Yeah.
in 2 in the last 2 days,
Yeah,
so,
it's more
yeah,
than a
we've
year.
been trying to take them as
Yeah.
much as we can.
Depending
so.
on the availability of the chassis.
So do we need to have a short, we've got a few minutes, do we need to have a short executive after this?
Yeah, do you wanna, I mean, I don't see how we have an option.
No.
And you know, at our the big meeting we had with, where all the counties get together, talk about with other counties our size,
Mhm.
you know, and some of them have, what do they call that, where they basically lease out the ambulance service?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Pay somebody else to take care of it.
Yeah, we don't wanna do that.
oh, no.
And they said, it looks really good for your first year, but once you've released all of your employees and you got rid of your ambulances,
Mhm.
then it about doubles or triples.
Yeah, it's about like the townships giving up their equipment. It's
Yeah.
the same exact
Yeah.
They do
deal,
all
and
the.
then 5 years
they do
down
all
the road,
billing,
you're,
You just
Yeah, you're at their
contract
mercy.
with a private
Yep.
firm
Oh.
to provide emergency services.
And they were saying, don't do it.
I think with the executive session, I do have a meeting today with Dr. Farmer, and so I'd like to talk to him over first before unless you guys want me to, you know, go ahead and say anything, but I think I need to talk to him and the rest of the
Yeah.
crew. But I was looking at, you had asked about price increases, so I was gonna actually build you guys a spreadsheet to show you what the different prices are and talk about increases next week, and we can maybe do an executive session then.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Are you good with this, Bud?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we enter enter into an agreement with REV Financial Services, American Response Vehicles for a new ambulance in the amount of $304,221 for a 7-year lease.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now my budget.
Is this where it's done?
Yes,
I don't have anything significant, just enough.
and you will get me a copy of all of that.
Yes, yes, I got plenty of them right here, and I'll give you one of this. Okay.
Okay.
You were prepared.
I was, I've been preparing these for like 2 weeks now, so I just didn't know what we would decide today, and so I had the budget prepared, that way I can get it done. Okay, on the first line item for salaries, I did have to increase it just slightly to cover a little bit of increase in cost there, because we do have 4 full-time personnel now, we've had some turnover, so that's where that came from. On 4231 medical supplies, we have been over for the last 2 years on medical supplies, and so I looked to increase that. We were over 24,000, I believe, the year before, and 22 this year, so I just thought we'd increase it to 20,000 because price of supplies are not going down. Utilities, 4310, we were over in that line item. Hudson Utilities, we took over from the bank in October of 2020, and it's just now kind of caught up to us. So we wanted an increase there. For some reason, price of insurance increased, and I called Lisa. 4235 is where we sat on that, and she doesn't see any other insurance coming out, so I had to increase that line item as well, just slightly. I was able to decrease, however, our leases, because we've been consistently under in that line item for the last 2 years of $350, and I just allowed for the vehicle payment of the $46,621 for the new ambulance with a $30,000 down 7-year lease, so the amount is $366,606.02. The fuel costs you guys were asking me about, we only sit at 2,800 used for the year so far. Now, I put $500 in fuel 2 days, or the last 2 days, so we're starting to increase, but we're sitting pretty good with fuel. But I did call Kansas Co-op, and I got that federal excise tax paperwork filled out, and so she's got that going for us, and she said, so now every time we fill up, we don't have to pay that tax anymore. So we'll have some savings, but that was a good suggestion that Phil brought. I had no idea that was even an option, so.
Good deal.
On the repairs and maintenance, you know, we had budgeted for last year 7,000 and we're at 18,000.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
That is a Lucas device, came out of that line item.
Okay.
So I don't know why it came out of there, but normally we're under in that line item, so that's why I didn't increase it.
Okay.
Okay.
So how many people do you have down at the station?
4?
4?
Mhm.
All there at one time?
Mhm.
Okay. So you can fully staff 2 ambulances out of there?
Yes,
Okay.
during the day.
Okay. I think it's you, Michelle, who else?
Bailey
Bailey,
and Dara.
Dara,
Mhm.
okay. Okay.
Like I said, I will, do they have anything open next week? Is anybody down yet? might actually
I
bring
just
Dr.
have an
Farmer with me next
8:30.
week, if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind doing just a short executive session, so you can bring us up to date a little bit, to where it's not so much of
Today,
a surprise.
Okay,
So we've got
that's fine.
a week to think about it.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just like,
I try not to make snap decisions, so if I got a week to think about it, it would be better.
that's fine, that's fine.
Okay. And we don't have
Check that,
anybody
divide by
full-time
that,
staff,
gives you
right?
your increase, and if that's
We
less
got
than
them
the
all here,
CPI.
so, because trying to put
inflation
somebody over
index.
there, it just muddies things
Yeah,
up, and
so
then
this-
they never have time
it just
off. I
doesn't
mean, it's
fall into
just
that
not.
category.
No, I know,
Other
no, I
position
know,
needs
I'm
to
just
be
thinking in my
here.
head,
You
if it's
never
less,
have
if
equal
it's
time off.
less of
And
an
we haven't
increase
had
than
any
inflation,
interest
then
in
you're fine.
anybody over at Maxwell.
EMT class, no, that actually came out the other day. We were on an emergency, and a gentleman, they made a comment that they wanted to stay home, and I said, well, you need to understand, there's no ambulance in your city. So if you stay home and you have this reoccur, it's gonna take us 20 minutes to get to you.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, well, I'll go then.
Yeah.
So it, turned the tables rather quickly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we could do a 5-minute executive session if you
Okay.
guys want.
I make a motion that we go into executive session for 5 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Sawyer come over from Stafford,
Yes,
and he was wanting sizable amount of money for this land bank to restore some of the houses.
Yeah.
And we asked him if they were interested in the housing deal that we had talked about. And he said, well, it's gonna cost us like $150,000, and we think we can do better with that money. You guys, what you talked to them about was just a certain percentage of what their budget was, wasn't it?
yes, so, and I'm starting to make the rounds to the city council, so last night I was in St. John and I'm on the docket for Stafford on Monday. We're asking for a certain amount for the cities to buy into our program over the course of 6 years. So for Stafford, and these just in case we get questions about stuff. So Stafford, we'd be asking them to give under just $25,000 annually over 6 years, and they'd be guaranteed 3 new houses. So in total, they'd be contributing on here with the exact numbers is $140,000 over a 6-year period.
Over 6 years.
Mhm.
Okay.
And so, again, that's where we talked to, again, last night, talking to St. John, they would have a higher, so the amount of contribution, part of it's based on cash flow. How we kind of determined it is about $25 per person. So based on population, that's how we came up with these numbers. So given that, St. John's population is just over like 1,200, Stafford's is just under 1,000, Maxwell's is around the 6. That's how we came up with the numbers that we're gonna be asking the cities to choose if they want to buy into our program.
Okay.
That's kind of how there's a lot of variables right now, so there's an asterisk on our plan because things change. Cost has been one of them. The grant metric restrictions have changed, so previously there's been more money available generally, and now we know from seeing the webinars when the grant opens, they'll only give $35,000 per house built, or unit built, because they'll do multifamily. So there's things like that where we need to see which cities are going to contribute. So what I guess you see in front of you is what we kind of know and are working from, but there's gonna be some variables that change over time. We haven't solidified the plan because there's too many moving parts.
Yeah, to me, Stafford, we just wanted to be clear on how it was getting split up, and this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
Okay,
Stafford's getting a better deal than St. John, so they, per house,
per house is
proportionally,
Yeah.
the deal goes down, like St. John's 52,000 per house, Stafford's 46,000. If they're looking at remodeling houses, even if they get them for free, 46,000 per house isn't gonna get you very far remodeling. So to me, that's a good deal for them. I don't see how they could not be happy with that.
Yeah. What kind of money did you think that you're gonna get from the grant per house? All right off the bat, did you think you were gonna get 60?
So previously, it hasn't been awarded per house, you could ask for money and then use it kind
Just
of
a lump
over.
sum.
Yeah, versus now there's that restriction. So there's potential, we'll be looking at still a $600,000 grant, that's not off the table. I mean, that would push us towards 17 houses. I don't know, we're still working through the cash flow, it depends who's gonna buy in. Right now is the opportune time to get that a large amount, because say we ask for 350,000, because that would give us 10 houses. If we complete that in 2 years, we're not necessarily gonna be able to just capture another $300,000 from them to, increase that program.
Mhm.
So that's where, right now, we're still kind of fluctuating in terms of what this is specifically gonna look like. And then even costs have come in, so doing the house on a basement, like our current design, we were hoping that'd be around the $160,000, and it's gonna be at the $200,000 price point. So again, I will give more information as I have it. I mean, this came off the printer basically to go to city council yesterday. So happy to answer questions as I have the information. And if you have feedback or things you'd like to see in the program, I mean, that's helpful. Like last night, talking with the city council, right now we're asking them to budget. They're not signing an agreement, it's just knowing that they need a budget now if they're gonna do it. But there's questions that come up, like what's the process gonna look like if people wanna buy the house, you know, and so that's still stuff that's being worked out.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see that. I mean, to me, his numbers were off because it's not 150,000, it's 140,000, and it's not 2 houses, it's 3 houses.
Yeah,
And
and it's not a one-time payment, so in the next 6 years.
right, and some of it was like, again, I did talk to their city council, I don't know, within the past month or so, was there and gave some general information, just an update, and so didn't have kind of the hard and fast. I told them to plan on kind of $25,000, because I knew it would come in at least under that. But again, still trying to nail down the exact specifics, so.
Okay.
Anything else that I?
So earlier, last time we talked about this, I said, so there's nothing that these houses have to be built in town. If somebody wanted to build one up in Radium or Seward or out in the country, could they do something with you guys to pay like what the cities would to get part of the money down?
So previously, our organization has chosen not to do like country houses in terms of that's not actually increasing the stock. I think it's something we can look into. So I think within, if it's not within a city's limits currently, I think there's flexibility if someone was choosing to build within Radium or Seward. I mean, when you start looking at like population size and how we're doing metrics, there would be a way to work with that. I think again, this is probably like phase 1. I think we're not done talking about housing or how we do it. The goal is, I'm still trying to figure out what's that point where we need to sell X amount to be able to make sure the project works before it becomes kind of a little regenerative or self-sustaining. And when we get to more of the self-sustaining side, it might be easier to kind of do that.
So. I guess I'd ask Carl, but I would say that I bet you 75% of the property taxes brought into the county is out of the rural area, out of the city limits.
Looking totally property tax and not just residential property tax.
Yeah, total
Right.
property tax. So I mean,
No,
pardon?
yes, I agree.
So I mean, it seems like all the economic development goes into the cities where there's where the majority of the property tax comes from is out in the country. And we don't do anything out in the country.
Yeah, but
That's
there's
my-
a lot of those people that are taxpayers that own land and generate tax revenue out in the rural area that live in towns,
Yeah,
live in cities.
yeah, I guess that's right. So,
But I get what you're saying, that it'd be nice if they could, in the future, have an acreage. You know, if you could find some little acreage.
yeah,
That's the problem, is finding a place, like even if you had the money to build smaller type acreage properties, where would you do it? You know,
Yeah.
where would you find somebody to split off a few acres? And
yeah, and that's next to impossible.
it's
Because
pretty
I've
tough.
talked to quite a few people that's been looking for,
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
And so what I would say with probably right now, I think again, like it's helpful to have this feedback. What I would probably look at doing is where can we later, like in the next phase, add in those slots to do rural. I think one of the biggest things right now is we're trying to figure out how to get all the equity we need to carry stuff out. And so having that city buy-in kind of is fundamental. I mean, the county's participation is really what's allowing us to even move forward, but then having the city participation really helps solidify going after
Did St.
this.
John make a decision last night on it?
They did not. So we're not, again, because there's nothing to necessarily.
There's nothing formal, it's just when
Right,
they,
it's like
when they
if
do
they're
their
gonna
budgeting.
be in, like I need them to budget if they're interested. And if cities are interested, then we can solidify what the program's gonna look like. But if a city chooses not to participate, where do those houses get reallocated to the existing cities? And then how do you cash flow that, not having that contribution for this
Mhm.
6-year period? So,
okay. So what do you think your deadline date is that you need to have hard commitments from everybody?
it'll probably be in August. So I feel like right now I'm riding the city council circuit.
Yeah.
So, waiting to get solidified on Hudson's date, because they don't know if Harvest will affect their Sunday meeting, but I'm on Maxville, and they don't meet till July 11th, because of the holiday. So some of it will be talking to the cities, finding out, you know, are they budgeting for it or not? If they're budgeting for it, then my organization can sit down and we can really flesh out what this is gonna look like, to then come back with, okay, this is the feedback we've received, this is what we're looking at, are you actually gonna buy into the program? And then they would be signing development agreements with the cities, because that would be kind of their pledge that we're gonna need for the grant. So the grant's supposed to be opening in July. That will give us more of that definitive feedback then too on all of the metrics specifics, and it will be due sometime in September.
Okay.
So that's kind of timeline.
Sounds good.
That's what I need, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you guys, have a good
Okay.
day.
Perfect timing. We don't want in.
All right, we're sure.
We're only late, but that's all right.
How's it going?
You flying today?
Yeah.
Kind of nice weather. At
It
least
is
the wind's not
really
blowing
nice.
35.
It's really nice, yeah.
It was, we were at Syracuse yesterday.
So this is kind of moved from Syracuse this way. It's nice and cool there and nice and cool here now.
Yeah.
Wish it makes it way down to me.
You playing pizza?
Sounds like Saturday, it might be coat weather. It's supposed to
Yeah.
be 70 degrees Saturday.
Yeah, yeah. What was,
July, Friday.
we got out of Syracuse at 8 in the morning, their time. And it was, it's not listed, it was, what was it? High 60s, I think, low 70s.
Right.
Yeah.
Clay, still cold?
You need your sweater, Grandpa?
Yeah.
Todd said it was cold in here.
Not this time.
We're doing budgeting all day today,
Yeah.
so we like to keep it cold.
Keep it inside.
It's like when you get audited, you
Yeah.
get really cold in the
Right,
room.
and it
This
just
body
went.
type is for cold weather.
This one should be what she's on. This is cold.
Are you ready for me?
Yep.
I'm going to give you a warning right off the bat. You got to go a little slower before I can find the lines that you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
You need to go through on mine and write, on the side, you write 1 and 2 and 3.
You know,
So-
actually, I do, yeah, I don't do this one enough to remember what I need to do or not do. But in our, with our board meetings, I'll say balance sheet line 1. And I actually do reference the line number, so maybe I need to be thinking about that in the future. But I'll try not to rush or jump around too much. But what I've got here on the first page, we just have some stats, kind of give you a trend for how things, just the volumes that are happening in the hospital. And starting maybe kind of from right to left, you've got 19, 20, 21. And then jumping to the first column, we have the actual for 2022, that is May, and then the next line over is annualized. So those last four columns are giving you a 12-month comparison for the last 3 years, and then what this year looks like it's running out to be. And I kind of bolded some of the prior, what I look at, and probably the categories that I think have the most significance for us. And so starting at the top of it on the admissions for acute, we're fairly consistent, and that's what you're going to see as we go down through this line, is you see 4 years that are fairly consistent, steady volumes. You don't see dramatic increases, but you also don't see declines. And so while we're always looking for more volume, what's probably more disconcerting is if you're seeing the hospital declining in volume. And so as we go through this, you'll see it's running pretty steady. So acute admissions, middle to upper 40s through that period of time. What's most financially important for us are that next highlighted item, the skilled swing admissions or skilled nursing admissions. In the hospital, you have different levels of care. You have an acute level, kind of a norm, and that's normally a 3 or 4 day stay when you're extremely ill and they're trying to get you better. For those individuals who are better but not able to go home, and this is almost exclusively Medicare age folks, there is Medicare allows for a step down level of care. skilled nursing. And a lot of that is addressing things like, where you would see it more commonly would be like if you've got folks that are getting orthopedic work done, knees or hips or something like that, and they're needing rehab, not able to do it at home yet, and so you do it in the hospital setting. And so Medicare allows you, the terminology skilled, everybody calls it skilled nursing, or swing bed, is you've moved them, you've swung them from an acute level of care to a skilled, they may be sitting in the same bed, but you've swung them to that level. So skilled nursing, but for a critical access hospital, specifically this hospital, skilled nursing provides the most reimbursement, certainly on a month-to-month basis as we're getting paid. We settle up on a cost report annually, but we need to have money to operate on month-to-month. Skilled nursing, because of the number of days involved, generally you have stays that last greater than a month, is you're billing for a substantial number of days, and our reimbursement's running about $5,200 a day, and so that's a big deal to us. And so acute stays pay about the same per day, they're just a whole lot shorter stays, so you don't have near the number of days, and so that just turns into money. So anyway, that being said.
On that, excuse me just for a second, on that 77, is that days or is that patients?
This is patients, right below it's the days. So that's
Okay,
the, yeah,
all right,
so
I see
right,
that.
right, but that's where I was gonna go next, so that's
Okay.
a nice segue. Is, and so what you wanna see is at least steady, but you would love to see us grow, you'd love to see us have more skilled admissions, that just turns into more days. It multiplies very quickly, because you can add 5 more acute stays, maybe another 20 days. You can add 5 more skilled nursing, you're probably talking like 200 days or 300 days, and that's a big deal, and that turns into a lot of short-term operating cash. And I won't bore you, I'll just touch on the cost report but I won't bore you, I've already bored you, but I'll try not to do it any more than I have to, is you want on a cost report, Medicare will pay us for the percentage of our volumes that are Medicare. They don't pay us for the commercial side, they'll pay us for the Medicare. And so ideally, as a hospital, in terms of just kind of a business strategy, you want to specialize in providing care for providing the type of care that draws in the Medicare population. And so that's why skilled nursing is such a big deal for us. Also, what's a big deal for us is because we're cost reimbursed. The big hospitals, the big city hospitals are not. And so for them, their business model says, provide the acute level of care and get them out of the hospital. I mean, that's just normal utilization review folks. Those nurses, those discharge nurses are constantly looking, once they got the patient ready to be discharged, a place to either send them home or to place them. And that's nice for us. We can just kind of raise our hand and say, yeah, we'll take that patient, because it's very attractive for us. And critical access is the model ideally suited for taking care of folks that are in the process of getting better, not quite ready to go home yet. And so now that being said, so we've got the skilled admissions there, and right below it you have your days. And so our days are running right at or a little above 1,000 days in the year, in the calendar year. And so that's a good number, that's a good thing, and yeah, if we can push that up, that helps us, that just helps us along. Right below that is, we can also provide care for intermediate patients. Those are nursing home patients is what that amounts to. That next level of care, so you've got an acute level of care, then you've got a skilled level of care, and then you have an intermediate level of care. And we can also provide care for those folks. Because of our cost, because we're critical access and we're able to get cost reimbursement, that actually can kind of help us too. It's kind of a wash, but it does push more cost into that area of the cost report, which just gets us more reimbursement. So it isn't a bad option. And so for the hospital, you can kind of see our days that are comparing it. We run more skilled and intermediate. There's room there's room in the hospital for if there was ever a need to take on more intermediate level patients, we could do that. But that's currently where we're sitting at. But once I said, it's just everything keeps going along nice and steady, and that's what we're seeing.
On those intermediate patients, that's kind of more your the equivalent is being in a nursing home.
Yeah.
But we're not a nursing home, we're a hospital,
Right.
so they're called, it's just a different name.
Right.
we don't want to compete with the nursing home. So the couple patients we have in our long-term care program, those are patients who didn't elect to go to the nursing home. They would have gone outside the community. So we thought, rather than them leaving the county, let's have them, we offer those beds, but otherwise we try to get those patients in the nursing home so we're not competing with the nursing home.
And it just makes more sense with nursing homes because the nursing home model is more residential and you're really trying to create a quality of life for those residents. So you're creating programs and activities that are geared towards how do we live our life ongoing. Hospitals are institutional, it's a hospital. And so they're not necessarily ideally suited for that type of a long-term arrangement for a patient. That being said, if need be, it's available to us and we can serve in that capacity. And like Dr. was saying, we're just a community member amongst other communities, other community members, and so we'll do, if we're a resource that folks are looking to, that's great. But we just take care of the patients that we're requested to take care of. Moving on down, kind of moving into the outpatient areas, our ancillary areas, physical therapy, you can kind of see your volumes there for PT, physical therapy, running fairly steady. OT is running fairly steady. Speech has just dropped off. Speech therapy is not a high volume area anyway, but we still show it on the schedule there. Radiology, a whole lot of various radiology tests that fit as what we do. Radiology is actually kind of picking up a little bit, and so we're doing more radiology testing, and so you can kind of see the breakdown of the various modalities and the services that we provide in the radiology department. Lab, always kind of uncomfortable presenting lab numbers. They're so skewed different from everybody else, and it's how you count labs can make a difference on your numbers, and you can change your method of counting. And so, but what it's showing is that lab is much busier than it has been. That's probably an accurate trend. But I always get, whenever you go to the hospital and you're getting lab work done and they're running a panel of tests and you get a whole bunch of tests, well, you got to figure how you count those. And so that kind of plays into that number too. But anyway, the lab is busier, and so we're doing more.
We haven't changed our way of.
Yeah. So, but it's always, all these other numbers you kind of like, and then lab just jumps out as a huge number. So I never really felt comfortable with presenting lab numbers. They are there, and I accept them for what they are. And then the ER, fairly steady. It just kind of continues on. We're seeing kind of the same number of patients that we've normally seen. We provide home health services. Home health is always kind of a complicated service to try to provide because it's so heavily regulated is what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. While the number of patients you kind of see it's dropped away from.
Yeah, why are visits down so much?
Well, the state dictates the type of the number of encounters, number of visits you can do, and so that ebbs and flows. I've been doing healthcare for 25 years, and over that span of time, every hospital that I've been associated with has had home health. And there have been periods of time where they relaxed the rules, and so you could take on a larger number of patients and you could see them for an extended period of time. And then there are periods of time where what happens is it gets abused. That's the way the government always reacts, is it gets abused and then they start
really cut it back.
Then they start cranking down the rules, and so that starts limiting you. And with home health, the challenge you have is you're not able to grow your market by reaching further out, because now you're just talking about windshield time, paying nurses and aides to drive. And so you're really limited. There's a physical limit as to how far you can extend your reach to try to take care of folks. And then it's just determined by the state as to how many visits are allowed or not, and what kind of mood they're in. And so in those periods of time where they ease it, then you'll see your home health agency, you'll see that department grow, and in times when it's more restrictive, you'll see it draw back in. And like 2 of the hospitals I was at, We had a thriving home health agency, where they became more restrictive, and we finally just had to concede and give it up, and we shut them down. And so we just couldn't compete, and so we just turned it over.
Our volume reductions were intentional. Back in 2019 and before, we had patients that had been on service with home health for several years. And the problem is when the government comes in and audits that, they're like, are you just babysitting them at home, or do you have an active therapy plan with the goal to get them not dependent on home health? And to the extent you're doing the former, they can pull all that money back. So we went through and started working on the patients. So you want to have patients rotating through home health and getting them off service because you brought them to therapy. If they plateau out, then you need to transition them to maybe long-term care or something like that. So when we've kind of gone from more of the babysitting type stage to really actively doing the therapies, that greatly reduces the number of encounters because you don't have them for years, you have them for months.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the stats that I was going to present. Does that seem good enough?
Yep.
Does that kind of give you all a feel for what's going on with the hospital over there? Okay, so the operating budget. So I'll just talk about the first page. The second page is just breaking it out into the months. There's nothing dramatic, there's nothing significant about that. You just divide it by 12. And I was reminded of that less than precise approach to that percentage monthly budget at the board meeting. But anyway, yeah, everybody had a good laugh, and I'm all for folks having a good laugh at my expense. That's fine. That's happened my entire life. Even does it when I'm going home. So anyway, so here we go. So here's the budget what I'm trying to project for 2023 is, so what you've got actual for 2019, 2020, 2021. Now I should have put up on the top there that's unaudited, so we're still waiting on them to finalize our 2021 audit. But those are the numbers there, and then I do have to say, I'll get to it here in just a moment, but I've done some work to make some adjustments for our cost report settlements, which have been substantial this last year. And then that brings it forward, and the next column is just our actual through May, and then taking that, projecting to come to a 12-month total for what we think 2022 will be, and then using that as a basis for identifying a budget for 2023. Probably the best way to talk about budget is to talk big picture about what we've been going through the last 3 years. Is, normally when you do this, when you reach back into these older historical periods, they can be of pretty good value for identifying amounts to budget going forward. We've changed who we are, and it's been because of COVID. And that being said, also because of what those COVID funds allowed us to do in kind of a very proactive way to try to make the hospital stronger. And so you're going to see dramatic shifts in where we are currently from where we were in 19 and 20. But, so what we've got here, so if you look at your numbers as you're going through here, you've got 19 and 20 are fairly consistent. 2021, we started using COVID funds, but for the year we were not able to, in the accounting world, until you're assured that you're going to keep the money, you are conservative when you book revenue. You book expenses when you know you've incurred them, but you don't book revenue until you know for sure you're going to get to keep it. And so 2021, there's a lot of those COVID funds that may end up being booked with the audit. The auditors haven't finished that yet. And so that may improve the performance in 2021. But what really happens is that most of the revenue that we're recognizing for COVID probably gets pushed to 2022. But we'll see how that all plays out. So you've got a lot of COVID expense in 2021. You still have some COVID expense in 2022. And then what I talked about, what we did for the hospital, trying to adequately staff the hospital has become a huge challenge in this COVID environment, and y'all see all that. Nurses are able to make incredible amounts of money if they're just willing to move ahead to a larger community, and those bigger hospitals are willing to pay dramatic amounts of money. And so trying to hang on to our nurses, trying to recruit nurses became harder and harder. So what we were able to do was take some of these COVID funds that are just sitting around and use that as the seed money to implement a payment program primarily focused at nursing, because that's the higher reimbursed areas on the cost report, but to pay our nurses significantly more than we ever have and to become much more competitive. And so as this transitions through, you've got a big block of money in 2021, partly 2022, that's directly COVID related. But then on the back end of 2021 and then moving into 2022 now, we've kind of supplanted that and replaced the COVID money with ongoing pay that we're going to be doing with primarily with our nursing staff going forward. And so as we try to move forward to a 2023 budget, what probably a lot of hospitals will see is that 19 and 20, pretty quiet years, they have this big bubble of COVID expenditures, and then they can track back into kind of what was the previous norm once they've exhausted all those COVID funds. For us, what we've done is we've used all the COVID funds, expanded out, but we also have replaced that with more high reimbursement expenses, labor expenses, and so that's going to carry on go forward. And so I guess what I talked about at a board meeting, we've gone to a new normal. We were here and now we're here, and because we're cost reimbursed, all of that additional cost we're able to recapture on cost reports, and so we're getting substantial cost report settlements. We did for the 2021, we did an interim cost report, about $1 million. And then we just did the final 2021, and got $1.8 million. So for 2021 cost report, you're talking almost $3 million of settlement. And so what will happen is with that, the interim rates will change. I'm just reporting on the interim rates. That's how it works. The interim rates will start catching up with the cost report. So hopefully we'll start getting more money reimbursed from month to month, and the cost report settlements will go down. It's kind of like a tax return. It's just your cost report's opposite. It's the reverse of a tax return. Is when you're through the year, you're paying in either through withholding or through quarterly payments what you anticipate your tax bill to be. You do your tax return and you find out what it really is, and it's either a refund or you owe more money. Cost report's the other way. The federal government owes us money, and so they're paying us interimly based on our volumes as we go. And then we do a cost report, and then we settle up on our costs, and we say either they owe us more money or we owe them more money. And so right now, it's upside down to where they're not paying us sufficiently for what our costs are, and so we're getting these large settlements. But they try to adjust those interim rates, so like on your, for your personal income taxes, you pay more through the year to try to match what you think your liability is going to be. And so the government's going to start catching up on that, so that when you get to these cost reports, hopefully the settlements will get a little calmer, but you would have gotten your money through the year a little more timely. So there you go. So what I've done,
It's good. It's good. It's a good thing.
Actual 21. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm sorry. So for actual 21, that is our actual expenses. The only thing I changed was on the Medicare contractual line there, that $4.4 million is reflective of the cost report settlement that we had already. And so that's inflated over what our financials are showing. And so bringing that down, we're showing 2021, you bring it down, and it is a very lucrative year because of the COVID money. We're probably going to end up booking a net income of about $1.5 million, somewhere in that ballpark. And then now I got to bring that forward, so we've got actual 2022. That is actually what we reported on our financials, except for that Medicare contractual line, because I'm trying to do something to capture what I think these cost report settlements are going to be. So I've started booking more of that, and then just projecting that forward into 2022. And so I think things are going to settle. I think this is a fairly conservative budget too, but it looks like kind of where we're going is that what I'm showing our actuals to be for 2022 is a fairly break-even year. I think it'll be better than that, but I'd rather be kind of conservative and walk in here and say I'd rather be pleasantly surprised than surprisingly disappointed. But I think that's where 2022 is going to be. And so now, 2023 budget, which is what I'm here to talk about. Yeah, so what I chose, man, it's hard, I mess with this and try it in a variety of ways, but I just don't have a lot of, that I can work on in these prior years that give me a real good sense for, I can really fine tune this thing to get to a good place. And so what I did was I said, I'm gonna rely on, the best I've got is 2022. That's the new normal we have. That's starting to reflect the new reimbursement rates, the cost report settlements. They turn into interim rates. And so what on 2023, what I did for the revenues, I took what I'm projecting for 2022 and said, let's just give us something to shoot for. I added 5% to that and just said, okay, I think that's not unrealistic. Let's see what we can do to grow it. And so there's a little bit of growth on there on the revenue side. On the revenue deduction lines, all those, except for the Medicare contractual, all those I did reach back into the prior years and said, okay, what was the, what kind of adjustments were we taking on these services provided to these other payers, and relied on that average of that trend to come up with, based on this new revenue number, what I anticipated the adjustments to be for these various lines, except for the Medicare contractual, because I took what our historic was and then started adjusting it for these new cost report settlements. And so that's where that 7.2 million in negative reimbursement, I didn't touch on that one. Negative with Medicare, we get, because we're cost reimbursed, we actually get paid for more than what we bill. And so it's actually, instead of normal in most hospital settings and for most of the payers, you get about 70 cents on the dollar. You bill $100, you're going to get $70 back. With Medicare, you bill $100, you're going to get substantially more back, depending, because it's tied to your cost, not on what your charges are. And so anyway, so in that 7.2 million is an attempt to try to capture what I'm anticipating the cost report settlements, the additional reimbursement we're getting from Medicare based on all this additional expense. And when you get down to the expense line, you're going to see they go up too. You got to spend the money, you got to have the cost to get the reimbursement. So everything's going up, this new normal. And so anyway, but as you bring it down, the total revenue deductions, it's a negative contractual, so it's actually more money of 6.4 million. So our total net patient revenue, no, total net patient revenue, yeah, we're showing to be about 13 million. Then in the other operating revenue, the big item there is just the tax appropriations, and I just use for 2023, I just use what 2022 is projecting out with what y'all give us, plus all the little sales tax pieces and stuff like that, to get to a net revenue of 13.5. And now I bring it down to the operating expenses. On that one, there's not a real good historical trend, and I talked a little bit about, we had a whole lot of COVID expenses that are going away, but we replaced that with a lot of additional labor pay, additional pay for our staff, primarily in the nursing areas, that we get back on the cost report. So I just, for the most part, projected that across, bringing that down to where we got a net operating income of a loss of about 183,000, but with the other operating income and just other revenues that come through, a break-even budget to 67,000. There you go. I'll quit talking.
Good job. Yep.
Slow enough?
Yep.
Okay, slow enough. And not too in the weeds. I'm sorry, the weeds.
The weeds.
Kind of how I, the way I kind of look at the financial picture of the hospital, of course, for years it's lost money. The 2021 profit of 1.4 million, most of that's due to, managing the COVID monies and going forward from that, did we manage those COVID funds properly? So, I think we did. That's why we're seeing kind of a break-even budget. It's really hard to break even on a low volume critical access hospitals. Those are generally money losers. But the 1.5 million, when you have several years of losses, what that means for the hospital is that it accumulates either long-term debt or accounts payable. So we'll use some of those funds. We number one, want to make sure that we have sufficient number of days cash on hand in our operating account. That's our highest priority as far as what to do with funds. And then we go back and pay off long-term debt and accounts payables to try to bring that back into the right area. So.
Yeah, and on that, the note payable, there's a forgiveness portion and a non-forgiveness portion of that old that old AP that we adjusted. And so the arrangement is, as long as the hospital's able to continue to make those payments, then annually we adjust off a portion of that amount that's just to be forgiven, it's just to go away. And so what we did last year, well, when we did that first big settlement, we pushed forward, we just made a nice big payment on the non-forgiveness portion, just to push it out and said, okay, we're good for the next 12 months. And so we'll probably do that again, because we're probably down to, I forget what I reported at the board meeting, I remember, 2 or 3 months or something like that, I think. So we're kind of out to where, you're still ahead of schedule, but we'll probably push that out again, because kind of where we're at right now is operating month to month, it's a little bit of a loss, and then we have the cost report settlement, and that catches us all up. Hopefully, in the not too distant future, this kind of starts settling out, and so we can probably start doing it as we go each month. We just haven't quite made it there. We're transitioning, but we haven't quite made it there. And talking about COVID, I'm talking again. Talking about COVID, you know, that was and it affected you guys in a similar vein, but for us especially was when Medicare made the decision to allow us to include these COVID expenditures on the cost report. Those COVID expenditures were also covered by, if we used them correctly, were covered by the federal funds that were coming to take care of COVID. And so we had an opportunity to get paid twice, get money twice over for the same expense. That's never happened in healthcare. That's never happened with hospitals. And so this is a one moment in time where if you're kind of paying attention, you can do something to really help yourself out. And so that's what we did. And so to try to increase the pay for nurses, normally you'd have to absorb that and wait to get it back on the cost report. And that's pretty painful to have to wait 12 months to finally get your money back. Well, this gave us the moment to say, let's do it, because the money's just sitting there, and then we're going to get it back on the cost report by the time they want the money back. And so it gave us a moment in time, and this is a one-shot deal. It gave you a moment in time where you guys should do something substantial to improve the lot of your hospital and make that carry forward. It's not just a one and done. For a lot of hospitals, it's going to be one and done. They just use the money and it's gone. But for us, we kind of looked around and said, I think we can use this money in a way this will help us for perpetuity.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty cool.
Just kind of a general summary real quick, just since we've been here. 2015, there had been patients in the hospital for 8 weeks. There was, I think, a few days of cash on hand. Wages were relatively low for the hospital, and fast forwarding to today, what I like, not just related to COVID, but just the gradual. I think COVID helped us accelerate these plans a little bit quicker, not a few years off of our growth, you know, so we could get there a little bit quicker. But what we've seen is, if you look at our stats, you know, the days every year we've gone up on the number of days that we've been seeing in the hospital. So utilization is up. We've been able to add staff. We've been able to pay staff more competitively, which that helps to stabilize our hospital. Some of the pay is tied into to competencies, especially with our nursing staff. So our competencies that our nurses acquire and have at our facility is higher than the expected competencies at surrounding even larger facilities. So we're seeing folks with better credentials at our facility than we are with others, you know, and so you have more competencies, better pay. That helps the patient care experience because we're well staffed. We have our survey for our lab with 0 deficiencies. That's extremely hard to take care of. Top 20 critical access hospital in the country, which that's out of 1,500 critical access hospitals. You know, and increasing the number of professionals in the county, dramatic impact to the county as well. So I couldn't be more proud of what this hospital has accomplished since, you know, that's just been 7 short years. they're kicking butt.
They weren't short.
Some of them took the longest.
So what is the employment of the hospital?
I'm sorry?
Number of employees at the hospital now?
50, she's probably
It used to be like 43, 42.
42.
I think it's a little higher than 50. I know between, let's see, between the two, this is, yeah, we just had to figure this up for the comp, yeah, between 50 and 60
Yeah,
total.
55.
Yeah,
54, 54.
Well, I
yeah.
think you guys have done a good job
It's
with the hospital.
your
and,
annual.
I mean, used to, I got a lot of complaints, and I probably haven't had a complaint from anybody in
Yeah,
probably
me
2
either.
years.
Me either.
So I mean, I think everybody in the community
that.
can see
I
that
appreciate that.
the hospital's going the right way, and I mean, it's a good deal, and I mean, I can see it being sustainable for a long time. If you had asked me that 5 years ago, I wouldn't have told you that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the hospital's going the right way, and you guys have done a good job, and you've been a big majority, you know,
Well,
what's the deal?
Well, and I tell them too, the staff and the management at the hospital that was there, I mean, we have a plan. It was a lot easier to implement that plan and to work with the folks at this hospital than it has been a lot of our other, this has not been as challenging of a hospital to turn around. And a lot of that's because of what y'all already had in place. So I think we've all worked together really well to accomplish that. I'm super proud of what we've all done together, so.
Yeah.
And thanks for the support. I know that's, there's been issues in the past, but the county's continued to support a certain amount. And our commitment, when we came on, we said we don't want to ever have to ask the county for additional support. And I'm proud to say I don't see that as anything that we would ever have to do to keep the hospital on that trajectory. Is if the community continues this, that's what we're budgeting for, and we don't ever want to have to come back and ask for anything else.
Still would like the support, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so,
I'll throw that one in. The accountant still like the support.
To be honest with you, I would love to get to a point where we could come back to you and say, hey, there's other things you need to spend the tax money on. And if we do find a way to do that, we will come back and ask you that. We haven't, that we're not, the hospital is not quite to that point, but if we are ever able to, we probably have to increase the volumes quite a bit more, maybe. If we get to about 30% more volume overall in the hospital, maybe we could generate enough additional funding that we could come back and say, hey, maybe set that aside in something else that if the hospital needed it again in the future, great, but otherwise you can use it for something else. We'll absolutely come back and talk to you about that. So.
Sounds good.
Thank you all.
So I got one other deal I gotta say. I got caught this morning at breakfast. You guys have a clinic, or your office is across the road from the hospital? Is that correct? You guys?
No, it's FQHC, Heart of Kansas at a Great Bend.
Okay. So does the hospital own that, or is that?
We own
private?
that building.
Okay. You guys got a political sign up there?
Not anymore.
Okay. They said, that's county, they said, is that county property? I said, I don't know. Well, if it's county property, you can't be having. I said, I'll ask them.
Actually, the building you're talking about is where our offices are.
Okay.
We moved across the street so we could put our old offices back to nursing square footage,
Yeah.
And I was not asked about that. I came home Sunday and that sign was in the yard, and it's no longer in the yard. I've taken care of that.
Well, that was my big drama at breakfast, so.
well,
Diverted
it was
crisis.
a bit of a drama.
That was my big
It was a bit of a drama at our place too.
My mother-in-law's one of the long-term care patients there, and we were visiting Sunday morning, and I looked out her windows, and anyway, it's gone.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Sorry, Lou.
That's right.
Hey, Luann.
There's a
Yeah,
political sign in
take
it.
whatever you'd like.
Planted it on the.
That way I can put it, that we did it with the board.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
All right, you tell her, hey, back.
Looking at you.
And they don't need any more money, I just had 4 months of
Thank you.
physical therapy. I paid them.
You know what, if they didn't need their tax dollars, we could buy a road grader.
There you go.
Hey, yeah, my husband needs a
One
new
road-
road grader.
One road grader.
Yeah, I just spent a lot of money there. But it was worth it. I have to say, the physical therapy department is great, and I enjoyed going to physical therapy after the first 3 times.
when they quit hurting you quite so bad.
Okay, so, this is my 2023 budget. Not much has changed, basically the salaries, because Beth will be gone and Amy's at a lower salary. So, the only other two changes is a little bit more on passport supplies, and they're raising our state association dues.
That's pretty easy, Luann.
It's pretty simple with me, yeah. And you know, I do have a tech fund, so that isn't governed by you guys, but you're more than welcome to look at, see how much I've got in there, and honestly, I don't remember how much I have right now.
That comes through the treasurer's office, correct?
Yeah, every document I get, there's $2 of that page goes to a tech fund. So
And that's
really
mainly
nice.
just for like computers or stuff like that?
Yeah,
when
so
you can have them.
anything to archive, anything regarding to archiving documents. It could be computers, it can be new numerical index books, copy machine use, things like that.
Where are you at? I've been meaning to ask you this. Where are you at on scanning? What year are you back to?
On the old books, I don't know what year it is. Because Beth's doing all that. I would say back to, we're doing.
Early 80s?
We're doing oil and gas, way further back than that.
Way further back?
Yeah, like probably the 40s.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah. We're getting there.
So you started off with the newest and then are working
no.
backwards or starting from the
No, on
backwards?
those, so in 1973, they started microfilming. So when I took over in 2003, I had all that digitized. So anything from 73 forward is in and done. And then we started with book one on those older books. There's been a little bit of a variation because some of the style of book, you have to totally change the setup on the scanner. So she's kind of gone back and forth on some. So we'd have from 1879, actually probably further than 40s, maybe 50s. And so maybe the 60s, late 50s, 60s is the gap there.
So we have about 20 years with
Yeah,
our scan.
yeah.
So I mean, it's doable.
Yeah, and that's not every book in there. I just have done oil and gas. Of course, all the deeds are done. They were done already. Miscellaneous, royalty, assignment release of oil and gas. Yeah, so there's a lot. And no, I'm not ever going to scan the mortgage books as long as I'm there. It's just, there's so many of them and they don't get looked at.
Yeah.
And definitely they should at some point, but in my time there, it probably won't happen.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're working on it daily, you know, so.
Cool.
Anyway,
All right.
that's
Sound
what I
good?
got. All right.
Thank you, Luann. Appreciate it.
Guess Marshall's up.
You sure?
We're
You
only
have a copy of
15,
my budget?
we're only 15 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
I got a feeling between one of you two, we're gonna be surprised.
Well, I don't know if you're gonna be surprised or not.
Not really surprised, just,
My budget's gonna have to increase, or try to.
I don't have Marshall's budget.
You guys can
Is
do
it
it.
under, is it under your minutes there? Look under-
did we get them last week, maybe?
That's my agenda.
Oh. Yes, you got them last week.
Oh, okay.
I printed them out and gave them to you.
Health department, emergency management, there's our,
Okay.
You can share, but go ahead.
I've got it here somewhere. Let me go to the other side of my file here. Go ahead, Marshall.
Well, so back in, and I believe it was 21, when we decreased budgets, I knocked like 23,000 off of my one line item of firefighter equipment, I believe it's,
4280.
yeah. And that was just to cut budget because I had 2 years, I had 21 and 22, that the only thing we had coming out was roughly $26,000 for bottle replacement. Well, starting 2023, we now start replacing gear and bottles. So I had jumped it from 42, I think is what I had budgeted for 2022, back up to 60. That's probably one of my biggest increases, which I didn't go to the full 65 because I think we can still manage at 60 to do that. But we're probably gonna have close to between 50 and 55,000 when we start replacing gear next year, and bottles. I've got a set of 20 bottles to replace this year. The quote that he gave me the first of the year, and I told him I wasn't gonna do it, was like 23,000, and he said, expect a price increase within the next month of 3 to 5%. And then we have some other, insurance will probably go up. Some of our expenses due to the Maxville station, the new station over there. We still have gear to purchase for people this year that, you know, we were told that it would be closer to the end of the year before they'd even take an order on that, so.
So it's about 18,000 increase on firefighter equipment. Insurance went up 3, dues and subscriptions are up 2. What's that?
Well, so for the CAD system, and it might be different, but when we first originally talked, it was gonna cost roughly $2,000 extra a year for the fire department stuff to be integrated with CAD so it communicates.
Okay.
And so that's what the increase on that was for.
Repairs and maintenance up 10,000, that's probably the Maxwell station mainly?
Well, repairs and maintenance, I'm just figuring trucks.
Okay. Other equipment is up 10. That last line?
Yeah.
Is that just trucks and stuff too?
I'll look at it here and see.
Very last line.
So the other equipment, typically that's, when we have our SCBA, our air packs and stuff like that, I believe all of our certifications for our air machines, the one in Stafford and one in St. John, all the repairs and everything comes out of that, all the certifications, all that stuff comes out of that, which, you know, the cost to change the filter on one of them went from $60 to $300. I mean, and it's just, I'm not saying that that has to be a final number. I mean, I think we can pinch and squeeze next year, but I will have to have more just for the bottles and gear. I mean, those are two things right there that we can't not have next year. I mean, that's just, otherwise we end up where we were in 2020 and spending $300,000 to buy gear for people because.
Does everybody gotta have that bunker gear?
Well, this is not bunker gear, this is wildland gear that we're
Okay.
replacing. And I, you know, back when I'd done this, and I probably really ought to update this, but it's too hard to get prices from anybody because they don't want to quote you anything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I only had $700 when I put this all together for wildland gear. Well, I can tell you right now, it's gonna cost close to $1,300. It's almost double right now
For one person.
for one person.
Do you think the bunker gears went up that much? Cause it used to be like 3,200.
I'm sure the bunker gear is probably every bit of close to $3,800 to $4,000 per person.
Really?
And the only good thing is we got clear until 2027 before that has to be replaced.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the next 2 years, 23 and 24, are where we get hit with gear and bottles both years. Then after that, we've got gear for 1 year, absolutely nothing in 26, and then 27 is when we start replacing bunker gear.
So we probably ought to start looking at increasing the budget on 26, so it's not such a huge jump in 27.
Right, right. And maybe even look at 25, you know, we won't have much coming out in 25, and maybe set some extra back in reserve, 25 and 26, to go towards that gear in 27, and may not have to
Okay.
raise our budget in 27.
Because all of our trucks are in pretty good, all the stations, I mean, we're not looking at any more big, huge expenses.
No.
Okay.
No.
So they move everything over to the Maxwell station yet?
No, I don't believe so. They're still working on it, and I think we're still waiting to get it insulated, but we were putting in all the wiring and conduit.
Are you guys doing that?
Yes. Well, the Maxville,
Maxville guys are.
yes.
But, yeah, I meant
Yeah.
not hiring.
Not hired done, no. They have hired a little bit of stuff. I mean, when it comes to the sewer and stuff, I think Davis has went over and helped him make sure the sewer was at the right grade and everything, but outside of that, it's all pretty much been done by
Yeah.
Volunteer help?
volunteer or the Maxville guys.
City of
City
Maxwell,
of
they do a
Maxville.
lot of work on that during the city hours.
Yep, so.
But it'll be a nice building for a long time.
So, but
All right.
that's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
It's not a big surprise, but that's your list.
Yeah.
There's just been a, you know, as far as you can figure, just have a slight increase, a total increase of 10,000. I have, you see a step increase there, it's just 1,000 for step increases for everybody because it does have that final person in, it's cut pretty close. So I think it can probably cover any kind of raises coming up in this, throughout the rest of the year. Fuel cost, I've already went through half my budget of fuel costs in 5 months. And as close as I can figure, the 8,000 should cover it. It keeps as it's going.
Yeah.
And then I had a big increase in insurance of almost $800.
Everything is that's been a reoccurring thing
Well,
throughout
I didn't know
everybody's
if some of my
budget.
guys, especially the theft of the vehicle, where it was.
Everybody's insurance.
Everybody's did. Okay,
Yeah,
so I just
everybody's.
At about this same amount.
EMS was up, his fire one was just up, he didn't talk about it, but it was
Okay.
up.
So that's where I put just a $1,000 increase in there, just to cover it, because I don't know if it's gonna raise again.
Yeah.
And that was it. There's juveniles on the backside. I didn't make any changes in that. Hopefully I can stay away from juveniles, because we've had one, and it's just basically has depleted the entire fund of housing almost.
Yeah.
Really?
What are they,
And
100?
that's a little over a month and a half of housing.
Yeah, what are they a day?
1
something?
150 is what it.
That's unbelievable.
I've been forewarned that a lot of the jails are talking about going up on day prices also.
Yes, I talked to a county commissioner in Barton the other day,
Okay,
and he told me that they were going up significantly.
I
Are
think
they going to
they're
50?
$50 a day, I think.
50, yeah, that's what he said.
Up 50 or
No,
up
they're going
to
to
250.
But they
It's
were at
35.
35 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big increase.
And I know
That's
that
pretty
that's
big
what I'm paying
percentage,
at the other
30%
one.
increase.
Yeah.
Pratt, I pay 45 already. I don't like using them if I don't have to. I try to use Rice mostly, but some of them, if they have the same charges, I get stuck with Barton County. So I have a feeling that Rice is gonna go ahead and go along with other ones around the area to stay, I guess in their sense, is kind of competitive.
Yeah.
I don't, it's not like they're buying for places and stuff, but it's something I think I'm gonna have to watch out for. I didn't put any in there, 'cause I don't really know for sure if they're gonna do it, but Barton County, I think is, like you say, is gonna go up to $50.
Yeah, yeah, he told me they were, that's it.
It hasn't been made official yet, but it's going like that all over the state. One went up to $150 or $80 a day, and that was just a county jail for their anybody but themselves.
So when people say, oh, they never do anything with any of these criminals, and we're paying $91,000 to jails, so evidently we're doing something.
That's a slow, and sometimes that's a slow year. You never can tell in the jails how busy
Yeah.
we're gonna be.
Yep.
We've had quite a few long-term ones this lately, because we've had, unfortunately, a lot of sex crimes.
Right.
And so, but sometimes we're splitting between other counties that actually have offenses against the same person, also the same thing. But
Yeah, I've always wondered about that, you know, like if you had a theft case in Stafford County and a theft case in Pratt County, and you pick them up, and you arrest them, you take them to jail, say in Martin County. Pratt, are they obligated to pay for some of that expense, even though you arrested them, or?
no.
Huh, so it's whoever gets caught holding the bag, it's like musical chairs of criminals, basically.
Yeah, we try to get rid of them as soon as we're done with them. They're off ours if you want to come get them.
Yeah,
I have had some Pratt occasionally will house them if they have stuff, but it seems like they get through their court system a lot faster than we do. I think it's because they have district judges there all through the week too.
Yeah.
We don't have anything, we just have our magistrate judge.
mhm.
I think their county attorney is full-time and they have assistants down there, so it goes
Yeah.
a lot faster.
Yeah. So on our juvenile, they still in jail?
No, he's out,
Okay.
because I was just about to go in the hole on him.
Yeah. So did he get released on probation, or did he finally have his jury or his trial?
It's not totally done yet,
Yeah.
so he's been released back to his grandparents,
Yeah.
so.
All right.
Go ahead.
But you think the 38,000 based on, for fuel, you think based on where you are now, if it doesn't get much worse than it?
It'll be right along that line.
It'll be close
It'll be
enough.
maybe just to give a little, maybe a little over, a little under. It's so hard to figure. I just, like I said, I've already told my guys to kind of do their town checks and stuff, but they don't need to run the highways. They can run traffic from a sitting position. And that keeps off some of the miles.
Yep.
But as far as seeing towns, no, I'm still making them go through all the towns and cover areas throughout.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, that's what we're paid to do.
Yep.
So,
All righty.
one other thing I had, vehicle. I'm supposed to replace a vehicle this year already. Have not been able to find a new one.
Really?
You can maybe every now and then find a Charger. It just doesn't fit our needs, so we can't do it. Highway Patrol has them, cars, and some Dodges, but they have about 20 or so coming in, but they have almost 60 agencies on the list to take them. So everybody's fighting over vehicles. I've never done this, but I actually found a used vehicle, which it's a 2021 Silverado. I have the stats here for if you just want to take a look at it, because
Yeah. We're
having a
gonna
lot of
start
places go
going.
out of state.
Yeah.
I have to get you one, Lisa, I didn't make it good
Okay.
enough made.
Here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna start looking at that, at least for Road and Bridge, trying
Well,
to utilize used stuff. I don't know what it looks like for,
Because I thought about asking to see,
Sure.
since I can't find one around, and Lisa, because that's who we've always gone through. Lisa's always been good for us up there at Marmy's, and when they have their Chevrolet GMC, they've always been good. She says they won't even take a new order for next year until sometime between August and September, if is what she put. But they'll take orders for them. And that's for next year's vehicles.
So this is the cash price right here?
This is, yeah, they're out, and it's 18,000 on a trade-in, and they have it down there.
what are we trading, our
I'll be our Dodge.
half-ton Dodge?
Mhm.
Okay.
Blue Book, it shows about 22, 25 for resale, but they're only offering 18. I don't know if we could get it more elsewhere or just selling it outright. It's a lot of hassles dealing with it that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you
A lot of
think
the-
Bryce put it on?
A lot of prices
Do
of
that?
vehicles have went up too.
I don't know, you know. The problem, I mean, you could sell them on Purple Wave and it wouldn't cost us anything. Because they don't charge any commission to government.
Yeah,
Problem with selling it anywhere else is you're gonna have to pay commission, and then you're already at 20,000.
yeah.
If you get 18.
To me, this is actually kind of the, I thought would be the easier way, just doing it as a
Yeah.
trade.
And you're guaranteed, you know what you're gonna get.
You're guaranteed.
You put it on big iron, it might bring 15.
Yeah.
It's a gamble.
I don't think, like, auction sites, traditionally, you used to be able to go on Purple Wave and buy used cop cars for cheaper than what the market was, because people were scared of all the,
The way they're
all,
driven.
yeah, all, you know, they're just nailed gas.
The only way I'd do that is if you just did it local in the paper or something.
Yeah, we
And
can do
just said
sealed
sell-
bids.
Not even do well, I guess you can do sealed bids if you want, whatever you wanna do, Rob, it's up to you.
To me, I know how much, it's 35,000.
Well, we're also gonna-
General stuff, and then I have to outfit it and everything else.
Yeah.
I would almost rather just take the 18 and not have the headaches of having to do the sealed bids and all this.
We don't have to pay sales tax,
Because we
right?
just don't know.
No.
Okay.
No, it should not have a tax in there at all.
That's what I thought.
Yep, no.
See, like normally on a trade, you're better off to just trade because you don't have to pay the sales tax.
Sometimes you lose a little bit, but you're guaranteed what you get.
It's got 98,000 on it. What's our truck now that we're trading in, got on it?
No, it has
That's
98,000.
that's what it is.
This
The
one,
pickup
the new
we got
one has 22,000.
22,000.
And it's a
So-
21
So
Silverado
it's
15.
fairly new.
Okay.
We're finding a lot of them in that range for some reason, but you just, going by the lots, everything on the lots are
You
vehicles.
put a diesel in that and it'd bring double that money.
Probably, I'm gonna stay away from that though.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think as far as getting it outfitted? Another,
A lot of our equipment will
10,000.
transfer over, but between getting it done, stripping a vehicle, getting it fixed, it'll probably run you somewhere around $8,000.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what I was
hoping around 8,000.
So we'll have 40
The
in it.
normal's about 5,
yeah, we'll have 40 in it.
but yeah, vehicle prices have just gotten outrageous. But you just can't find them. They were looking at going over into Arkansas and Missouri trying to find some vehicles.
And you're
Martin
figuring,
County was, so I don't know if that fell through. I think someone already snatched them up before they had a chance to go talk to them about them.
and you rotate these vehicles about every 4 years?
We try to do it every 4 years. Last year I did 2. I bought one outright out of my reserve fund and we bought the other one and so on. Because there's 3, 4, there's 5 of us now. You know, but yeah, there's 5. I had to think for a minute, I'm sorry. And it works out that it normally goes about every 4 years. And 1 year, if I was able to save enough to the reserve, I had to buy one, double that year and do it, pay it out right out of an opposite fund.
Yep.
Because what we're getting set aside out of the general, and I know money's tight for everything else, it's actually increased to 35. I remember it was less than that. 35 is in with a new vehicle, and now if you don't have a good trade, it's just not even touching the bucket. They're 50,000 on up.
Yeah.
They've actually increased in prices 15 to 20%, some people were saying.
I mean, I don't see a problem with a 22,000 mile pickup that's a year old. I think as a whole, the taxpayers would appreciate us looking at used vehicles.
Yep.
I mean, I appreciate it as a
Yeah, I
taxpayer.
do.
And it still
This
comes
thing-
with the
because it
5-year,
costs-
100,000.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find on here.
Powertrain is the way I understood it.
Okay.
Had the 5-year, 100,000 mile powertrain.
And if you think that's the way to go, Rob, I'm okay with buying a used pickup.
I'm fine. I think it's a good deal.
Well,
What do you think, Mike?
I'll give a call and try to reserve it today.
Okay.
And hopefully it's still on the lot. He says he says that you never
Somebody
can
shows
tell
up
when
with a
someone shows
check.
up and says, hey, I want that, and
Yeah,
it's gone.
it's 4-door LT, so cloth seats probably.
I'm trying to remember. I
Yeah,
think
it's probably got
so.
cloth seats.
It has an off-road package.
Yeah,
Trailer.
Yeah.
4-wheel drive, obviously.
The only thing it doesn't have our normal ones do is the alternator is just a standard size alternator. Because normally we have a larger alternator for the radio deals.
Yeah.
And in time, if it went out, I'd have to see about a higher output alternator maybe.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a problem.
But the more and more we get with some of the equipment, it doesn't draw as much as it used to.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it's got the Z71 off-road package, so it's got upgraded off-road suspension, heavy-duty suspension. So it's
It
probably.
sounded, I mean, from what it looked and sounded, pretty nice.
Better go call him.
Okay. Appreciate your
Motion.
All right.
I make a motion that we approve Rob to purchase a 2021 Chevrolet Silverado 1500.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
If it's available.
If
it's still-
I hope it
Lisa,
is.
the cash price, well, I guess you got this, right? Cash price is 31,000.
He'll
I'll
give me
make
a
you a
copy.
if you
Yeah.
need it.
Yes, please.
I didn't know if you needed it for the motion.
I'll fill it in if I miss something.
Is Greg's a four-door?
Yes.
Do they like pickups better, or do they like the Tahoes better?
Some like the pickup, some like the Tahoe. I mean, I'm sorry, you don't always get to pick and choose what you want or what you get.
Yeah,
Those Tahoes happened to be something, they had them on the lot because we couldn't find them, and they had two, and I just went ahead and, that's when I went ahead and got the okay for both of them and just
yeah,
jumped on before they were gone. Because they had two other ones there, but they wouldn't sell them to us, and because someone else had already called on them, and they were different colors, they were black, and, or they weren't a white. This one here's a white one also, so.
Yeah.
But it's getting harder and harder to find someone who will outfit them for us too.
So do you think you'll try to trade
Yeah.
that into 3 years?
Yeah.
Or try to get the 4 years out of it?
And depending on the miles, I'd like to get 4 years out of it as a kid.
Okay.
Because our normal, for some, I mean, he doesn't do the miles the rest of us do. I mean, I still got it in a year and stuff, and I'm right at 80,000, so I mean, and I'm sure, I've lowered on my miles, because I'm not like, I'm on patrol every night like I
Yeah.
used to be. 120,000 was a standard trade-in after 4 years on the road.
yeah.
I've seen, and
Who
I.
outfits your pickups, or your?
Well, we
cars?
had Tim Batt out of Russell was doing it.
Mhm.
He's now went back to Oldfield, and he's only does 1 week, I think he gets a weekend off every 3 weeks, so
Yeah,
I think he's even did. There's a company that's been coming to the Sheriff's Association out of Garden City, it's JR's Audio, and they do everything but buy your vehicles for you. You get the vehicle, they wire them, they can do decals, everything else for it there. And they were comparable to what I was paying.
where's
Tim
Don
Batt.
Hatton at?
Don Hatton's out of Wichita,
Wichita.
North Park City, basically,
Okay.
up to the north up there. But it's a family business, and
Yeah,
I looked over the work, and actually, it was pretty good, because they were showing vehicles that actually were going out to other departments from the show there, and stuff,
Yeah.
and the conference. So, I mean, we have to go to Garden City to get it done, but
Yeah.
if you're really no one around here, I trust them.
On your next vehicle you trade in, we might have to look at that sealed bids or doing something.
yeah.
Because I'd almost write you a check for that. But I think that's a buy on that truck.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion?
I'm going to.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes of June 15th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's really no advantage to trading.
No, they don't give you any.
Because like somebody that's not a government entity, there's an advantage to trading because you're gonna save a couple thousand on sales tax.
Mhm.
Just paying the sales tax on the difference, but really, we're not incentivized to trade other than a guaranteed price, but in this market, you could have. I'd be okay with that if you guys wanna put it up for sale bid.
Give it to Lisa.
There you go.
Sorry, I got too many things going in my mind now. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know you could buy a damn half-ton pickup for under $30,000.
With under 100,000 miles on it.
Yeah,
It is a Dodge.
that's a plus, buddy.
That is a Dodge.
That is a
Dodge.
plus.
This one's been rebuilt a couple times.
Oh, really?
It was the one stolen the whole front side.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's-
I don't care either
I'm just
way.
letting you,
Yeah.
this one might not have been the one. The other ones might be, yes.
They run a Carfax on it, on an online auction, and it might bring 15.
Oh, really?
I mean,
Because if they do it's been rebuilt twice, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, Twice we know we're thinking it was actually 2 deers at the front, and then when she drove it down the side of the tree out in that pasture.
So is this Greg's truck or?
No, this is Clayton.
Okay.
Yep, Greg's is actually, he's got the same amount of miles, or maybe just a little bit more than I do, but his is a year newer, because I don't do quite the miles the rest of them do.
Yeah.
Transports kill us. We go different ways and stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Even though we have the other van, it's just so much, it's sometimes harder to use it just to get one person than it is just to go ahead and take our own vehicle and do it,
Yeah,
depending on where we're at in the county doing patrol.
yeah.
Alrighty.
Well, good luck.
I hope
Two quick questions for you. In the rework for our county emails, are any of you interested in having a county email? He asked me about that.
That's all I need is another email.
Well, you don't look at the one
I
you
got
got.
it 5 days ago.
Okay, then there's been talk amongst the clerks across the county about mileage. I know we just raised our mileage to 50 cents. The actual IRS mileage rate is actually 62.5 cents now. So I'm just putting out there asking if you have any interest at all in going above the 50 cents, or you want to stay at the 50 cents
We've stayed at below.
for a long time.
For a
yeah.
long time.
Cause you guys actually, that vehicle at the appraiser's office, I think the clerks paid for half of that or something, didn't it? Clerk's office or?
You know, I can't remember how that worked.
It
It's
was a
actually
shared deal.
their vehicle.
It's, I think the stipulation was that you could share it.
Yes, but nobody does. Everybody uses their own vehicles. And I'm just thinking about, we don't use it a lot, but like for employees, and then I will be paying poll workers mileage, so I just want to make sure I've got a decent rate.
For the extra amount, I mean, I don't know. How much do we even pay in mileage a year?
Not very much at all.
Next to nothing, right?
No, it's reimbursement on their payroll.
It doesn't matter to me. We could go up or we stay the same.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me at all either. What do you think?
I would say leave it.
Yeah.
At the
that's-
50?
That's
Okay.
fine with me.
Okay, that is all
Not
I have.
mandatory. I mean,
Is Mike not here today?
He's not, he's
He's
out
sick.
sick. You,
Oh,
yeah, you
okay.
hadn't gotten here yet when I told him that.
That's fine. I have the information to Mike, the survey, the deed information for that Fisher pit. I got it to that guy that bought that ground. He okayed the survey, said it's just fine with him.
So we're down to just the.
We're down to just Mike drawing up the
Contract.
the contract and
And I'll
Sign
sign,
it.
we'll do the motion and then I'll sign it. And are you a notary?
Mhm.
So you can notarize it,
Yep.
then we'll mail it to him?
yep,
Okay.
Okay.
Nope, sounds good.
cut him a check.
That deal that we did a couple of year, or, last year about the county with the firearm deal. Not if the federal government put in more stipulations, you'd brought it up and we'd.
Oh, yeah.
See, and I think, we're a county building. I think it's just the third floor.
Well, no, this was for the whole county.
This
As
is
far as
like
what they
a
put in.
Okay.
sanctuary.
Gotcha. Oh,
county
gotcha,
or
gotcha,
whatever.
gotcha, okay.
Whatever we did there, could you get me a copy of that next week? Because I had one of the city council members for St. John was wanting to see that, and the city's thinking about doing the same thing that we
Okay,
did, which
yeah.
we've
Well,
already done.
was
I
ours
saw
an
that not too
annual-
long ago.
I thought it was just a one-time deal as far as we did it, and that's the way it was.
one and done.
I don't remember.
So if you look back and see that,
Yeah, I just came across that the other day, yeah. I'll have to look for it, but I can find it.
they're just wanting a copy of what we did, so we can just piggyback onto it. You guys got anything else?
I don't think I have anything else.
I think we'll adjourn.